If you have found yourself shopping for watches online and have a budget, say around $1,000 to $5,000, chances are you've come across the name Christopher Ward. This British brand is frequently brought up in different comments by many of you, but also discussed online in different forums, and has established itself as a rather serious player in a short period of time of just 20 years. In fact, Christopher Ward has reportedly doubled in size in just the last fiscal year alone, now reaching £30.5 million in revenue in this period. As someone interested in the business side of the watch industry, I'm fascinated with the case study that is Christopher Ward. So how the hell does a brand that has no retailers, has limited resources compared to the larger scale names, begin to take market share and become one of the most beloved names in the online enthusiast community? In this video, we look at the complex story of Christopher Ward, discussing its path to growth, share some of the watches worth highlighting in the collection, and then close with some of my final thoughts on the brand. So we are just getting into the holiday season. If you guys are looking to buy a watch, definitely check out teddybaldestar.com. I will link to our entire promotions for the holiday season. We have it all listed out on one page. You can see everything right there. Currently, right now, we have 15% off on all strap purchases. Also with Marathon, if you select a watch, purchase a watch from the collection featured on that page, you get a free Marathon general purpose quartz watch in sage green. That's a $250 value for free. We also have gift with purchases from brands like Oris, Longines, Unimatic, Mito, as well as Glasuta. And we have some more things planned for the Black Friday weekend, but we have a lot of these rolled out already to get ahead of it. If you're interested in this, check it out with the link in the description down below. The concept of Christopher Ward was conceived back in 2004 during a boat ride down the River Thames. Three gentlemen from the UK were at a crossroads. Two of the founders, Mike France and Peter Ellis, had just sold their previous company, and the third of the three founders and fellow entrepreneur Christopher Ward was looking for something new to get involved with. With a joint interest in watches being common ground amongst the three of them, the idea was to start a competitively priced online watch brand and go directly to the consumer. In hindsight, this concept of being solely online might not seem like a novel idea. However, remember that this was back in 2004 and that many established players at this time didn't even have a website, and e-commerce wouldn't widely be embraced for another 12 to 15 years in this industry. Given the founders' previous success, they were able to front load a decent amount of initial capital to hit the ground running. Their first release came in 2005 with the C5 Malvern Automatic, which featured a Swiss movement on the inside and an inoffensive design approach. Being proudly British and given the more attainable prices of its watches, there was some piqued interest in the early years about the brand on forums. A series of other releases followed, with the most notable being their C60 Trident Automatic Diver, launched in 2009 and remains in the collection to this day. In 2011, CW released its first jumping hour watch, the C9, a watershed moment for the brand and a hint of things to come. Make no mistake, to this point though, Christopher Ward was very much a boutique operation. Yeah, sure, they did have their subset of devoted followers, yet there wasn't anything exceptionally noteworthy that would help them elevate to drastically new heights. Many of their early designs had an homage look to them, and despite not producing what I would call bad watches by any means, some of the designs were rather safe, lacking a core identity. Where I would mark one of the first points of change was in 2014, when Christopher Ward merged with a Swiss movement manufacturing partner, Synergy Horloger SA, ultimately forming Christopher Ward London Holdings. To this point, CW was having its watches produced in Switzerland, though with this merger, it created the possibility of further expansion and gave them a partner that could assist in the development of new mechanical concepts. Subsequently, the company launched its first in-house movement, the COSC certified caliber SH21, featuring an astonishing 120 hours of power reserve. This set a tone for the years to come, with Christopher Ward undergoing a massive rebranding in 2016, replacing the old logo, which had become subject of some dispute with a well-known auto manufacturer. Following in its place was the introduction of their twin flag logo, still in use to this day, and is still an area of divide amongst collectors on whether they prefer it over former designs. In any case, the Swiss and English flag mashup was indicative of the brand's focus going forward. One other final point that I want to mention for Christopher Ward during this period is they had a concept known as the 60/60 guarantee, which simply put offered 60 days to return a watch and 5 years of warranty, which for a brand of this size is pretty unique and does allow them to separate from some of the competition. The following 3 years for Christopher Ward was time for a bigger brand uplift. The products began improving in specification, designs became more diverse, and And the timing was good too, as the company grew alongside the corresponding internet watch community that was burgeoning. The brand's proud British roots seem to also have helped too, as support came from both those looking for alternatives to some of the more major players for the price, all while creating a galvanization of national support amongst those from the UK. Over this 15-year stretch entering 2019, Christopher Ward was deeply into brand building. This eventually led to a huge inflection point for the company, as there was clearly a desire to develop more stable profitability and increase the brand's perception. In order to do this, the company received an infusion of investor capital, getting $6.25 million from a British venture capital firm. This investment led to several changes beyond just more money to play with for business process and product development, but ultimately this led to changes in some leadership as well. In 2020, the company's namesake, Christopher Ward, left the company, with leadership now falling to the trio of Mike France, Peter Ellis, and George Bader Sr., the original owner of Synergy Horloger, who now serves as the co-CEO for their Swiss headquarters in Biel. Some of this investment clearly went to the website and some of the marketing, as the CW name seemed to be getting increasingly discussed. I also speculate that this investment probably helped in diversifying this product mix and clearly taking more risk in that department. The ultimate turning point amongst the broader watch enthusiast market when it came to Christopher Ward happened in 2022 with the release of the Bell Canto. This watch became an unexpected hero product for the brand, not only commercially, but also setting a new benchmark for what the brand was capable of. We have seen Christopher Ward making value for money divers, we've seen the GMTs, dress pieces, that's been happening for years. But a Sonore au passage that was developed with the help of Chronode, a movement design firm that works with the likes of MB&F, and doing this for under $4,000, it was safe to say Christopher Ward now had our attention, and basically overnight completely changed its image. This was followed up by the 12, the brand's finally finished integrated sports watch that was about as well done as any for its just over $1,000 asking price in steel. Different case material choices followed with titanium and eventually a skeleton example, which pushed the boundaries of price compared to what many thought of for the company. And most recently, the brand's updated and improved C60 Trident, which takes a titanium case construction and distinct superluminova blocked indices and creates a pretty compelling look for its $2,390 retail price. The Christopher Ward assortment now can be broken down by the following: the Bell Canto, its higher-end hero complicated product; the 12, its integrated sports design; the Trident, which is its core aquatically capable collection and sees some of the greatest variants of the product mix within; the Sealander, which is arguably CW's most versatile collection, being of the everyday style; the Moonphase line, which also includes one of my personal favorites from the brand, the C1 Moonglow with its luminescent and giant moonphase indicator; and finally, the brand's Super Compressor, which is one of the few authentic super compressor cases currently being made in the industry. Basically, this means that it was designed to act like compressor cases of the mid-20th century, not being just superficially done, where as you descend underwater, the surrounding pressure will press the case into the O-ring gasket, creating a tighter seal. So with all this being said, now we have to ask, where does Christopher Ward ultimately stand nowadays, and what is their place in the industry? Simply put, Christopher Ward has managed to do a few things that very rarely have been accomplished in watchmaking. For one, they started this century and built an 8-figure brand. A small fraction of 1% of companies, regardless of industry, ever reach 8 figures. Even less of the case when it comes to watch brands, given the industry's overwhelming domination by centuries-old names. Secondly, they have been able to scale while not alienating its core initial base. As most enthusiast brands expand, oftentimes there's going to be some growing pains where some of the early adopters start to feel that they no longer belong or have moved on to other brands. In the case of CW, while they still have gained more customers, they have appeared to maintain a core base as well that have come along on this journey with them, which is most likely a byproduct of the third point where Christopher Ward has done something incredible. They have elevated their brand as they have been building it. One of the points of the enthusiast vernacular is the concept of a micro brand or an independent. I know that some people will interchange these terms, but I actually draw a line, and I know it's not a formal definition, but this is what I would say when defining a microbrand. A microbrand to me is a smaller upstart without in-house manufacturing or proprietary capabilities, often run by a single person or a small team. Whereas independent watchmakers will have either proprietary capabilities and fall outside a major group, even if they are commercially sophisticated. A lot of times when people look at a watch brand and see how it measures up as a benchmark, they'll look look at the least expensive product the brand makes as a way to measure them. In the case of Christopher Ward, I think almost the opposite has happened with things like the Bell Canto. Also, what adds to this is in the early days of Christopher Ward, they were selling pieces under $500, whereas now they appear to have no problem selling $4,000 plus watches with examples like the Bell Canto. Their path to increasing prices wasn't just a process of what felt good, it came down to objectively better produced products to justify it. To go from an average order value of well under $1,000 to now what I would guess is closer to $2,000 is quite impressive. It also appears like Christopher Ward has embraced less traditional ways of marketing. I like the initial concept of being an online retailer back in 2004 must have been. Many content creators have had access to Christopher Ward pieces, and I'm sure some money has exchanged hands in some of these relationships, but nevertheless, they have had the foresight, speaking of Christopher Ward, to understand that if they could get products in the hands of as many people as possible, good things were going to happen for their brand. They needed to do this, especially given that they were doing this without any retail network to speak of. I've also found that there is this homegrown nature of the brand that give them this underdog approachability aspect that made them easier to root for compared to some of the bigger names. But like any company that has fastly emerged and grown in their scale, there had to have also been some growing pains in product delays, customer service, and other aspects of the business. To double your company size in a matter of months is not going to be easy, and there's going to be bottlenecks that will ensue. That said, from the outside looking in, it appears as if they are managing all of this reasonably well. Now, the question of where they'll go from here, we'll just have to wait and see. Yet looking back at the path that they've traveled, it is arguably one of the most impressive stories of growth in the industry this century. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say any of that. But all right, guys, that is my take looking at Christopher Ward. It's very interesting for me too, because I always see Christopher Ward mentioned. If I don't include them on a list, people are just reaching out in the comments saying, like, how did you forget about Christopher Ward? Maybe it's because of my own omission, but also most of the times it's just because people love bringing up Christopher Ward and want to talk about them. This brand has been able to connect with enthusiasts. I see them talked about online, but there's something about Christopher Ward where people just like hearing about this brand, and I have to give them major kudos. They have elevated what they've been doing, and I'm very interested to see what they'll continue to do in the years to come with this new defined identity. If you own some Christopher Ward watches, leave some comments down below. What is your general take on the brand? Do you like the trajectory that they're headed? Or maybe you have a different opinion on things. Leave a comment down there. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. Also, check out teddybaldestar.com. Teddybaldestar.com is an authorized dealer for over 30 brands. Every purchase from our website comes with quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. And also, how we're able to do things here and release multiple pieces of content every single week on this channel is through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd absolutely love to have your business. Allow us to keep doing what we're doing here. We love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.